Men's Forum wants you to master men's blueprint for life. Learn how to build wealth, build quality relationships with the right people, lead a better and healthier family life, live your full potential, inspire the world. Men were born to lead, keep, and protect the family. Join Men's Forum and master your blueprint for life. Men's Forum, all you need to become a better man.
Welcome to another broadcast of Men's Forum. And of course, as usual, I have the brain behind this movement here in studio today. But just before I give this brain an opportunity to talk, just let me share a little bit about Chris. Chris is an author, and he's an author of this beautiful book that is titled Becoming a Better Man. And this is an exceptional book. Why? Because it really helps men to understand a blueprint for living a quality and successful life that is going to set them on a path to build healthy, productive relationship with their spouse, to build healthy, productive relationship with their children, and to build healthy, productive relationship with wealth. All of this is packed into this book titled Becoming a Better Man. So if you ever wonder, what is your role as the male figure in the family? You don't have to worry or guess or speculate about this anymore, because Chris has documented a strategic blueprint that is going to set you up for success for the rest of your life. And there's so much more to come. So I want to encourage you to stay with us throughout this program. And Chris and I will be giving you some hacks to really master your manhood and to master family and to master wealth. Chris, with all of that being said, I want to welcome you. You are such an awesome person, an awesome talent. You have been in the world, you are in the world of real estate and construction, but you have taken time out now to focus a lot on development, personal development, with a specific focus on men and the family.
Yeah.
How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. I live in Florida. The weather's great. I'm great.
Awesome. Chris, I want us to start on a very important topic. Research is showing that many men struggle through life. They struggle with having a sense of self. Many men, research is showing, don't have that strong sense of self. Many men, they struggle with relationships with themselves and others. And many men struggle to build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I know for a fact is that your platform, the platform that we're working on, Men's Forum, Family Forum, is designed to stop men from struggling through these things.
Mm-hmm.
Would you just care to give us an overview of what inspire you to really get on this path?
Yeah, it was without a doubt personal experience first. Everything in this book and everything that we will talk about, I struggle with myself, and so I walked that fire, and I walked it for a lot of years. And I realized when I started coming out of that and started helping other men that astronomical amounts of men struggle with all these things silently, right? Because we don't know that there's any resources out there to help us with these things. Men are the provider, men are the leader, right? So we don't talk. We don't talk to our wives about this. We don't talk to our friends about this. We just don't talk about it. And, I realized that the first order of business to get better at something is to open up and have discussions about it and try to figure out action steps to take care of those things. But if you don't talk about it, you can't accomplish any of that. So the goal in this originally was to just get it out there and start conversations and help men realize that there is a blueprint. It's my own blueprint. It's what I lived in my own life. I struggle with everything that they can possibly be struggling with, and I found a way out. And I wanted to make sure that they had that blueprint for themselves.
Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Chris, I want us to look at something else. Across the world today, we hear statements like the absence of males, the absence of fathers in the home is the reason why young men go through so much of trauma and the reason why young men are the way they is today. I want to put a twist to that, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong here. Is it the absence of the male role models in the home, or is it the absence importance of the male role models that understand their responsibilities and can filter that information down to the younger generation.
You know, you're 100% correct. Obviously, if the real male role model is not there at all, then that puts you in a more desperate situation. But I know from my own personal experience, my father was there, but all he could teach me is what he knew and the environment he grew up in, which was, you know, the iron fist environment, you know, and so that's all he could teach me. There was no learning how to deal with emotional conflict, or, you know, how to be vulnerable and open up about your feelings, or how to make your money make money for you. You know, we didn't have any of those conversations. He didn't know those things. You know, he was one of those guys, like we talked about before, that just went to work every day and paid his bills and hope he had a little bit extra afterwards. And so what happens is, when we personally don't have the knowledge, we just pass that down to our children because it's all we know. And then we create that, you know, like you said, that ripple effect of generational trauma where kids are just becoming adults and they don't have a clue on how to be an adult.
Wow. You know, Chris, I really, really enjoy having these types of conversation with you. And, you know, you're an expert in the world of, you know, real estate development, construction, and you are a certified, you're a master certified individual when it comes to life coaching and so forth. So you have this body of knowledge, and so it's such a pleasure to be talking with such a knowledgeable person on these subject matter. We have agreed that it's not merely the men being in the home. Yes, that can be a factor that provides some stability, but I think you get better outcome when the man understand his role as a man, understand his role in the family. But Chris, the strangest thing about this is that many men, millions of men, are placed into this situation where they really don't understand exactly what that role is.
Yeah.
And that is a challenging situation. So what I want to do is to extract from your knowledge and your expertise in terms of what those responsibilities will look like. I will list the things. I will list a number of potential responsibilities, and I would love you to shine some light on them. In my view, I believe one of the most important things that men needs to invest in is what I call their personal development plan. And why do I say this? I do believe that people cannot grow beyond their sense of self, and you can't help to grow beyond where you're at if you are not at that place. How important is developing one sense of self, developing oneself, important in the whole equation of becoming a better man?
Yeah, it's numero uno. That's why you're talking about it first, right? Like, literally, the reason that men struggle so much is because we don't have positive coping mechanisms on how to deal with a variety of different things, right? And it's literally because we're not taught when we're young how to develop those coping mechanisms, right? And then we get thrown into adulthood and we have no knowledge or education on how to deal with emotional conflict, how to deal with a relationship, how to deal with being a father, how to deal with living paycheck to paycheck, how to deal with all these things, right? So we just fumble through it and we make a million mistakes, and then those mistakes themselves cause trauma. And every time you make a mistake, you feel guilty and you feel shameful, and you literally are traumatizing yourself because of those emotions. And we don't know how to process those emotions, so they just build and build and build to where, like we were talking about before, all of a sudden your backpack is full of rocks and you can't even walk.
Interesting. You know, I agree. I do believe that personal development is vital. And personal development is you committing to become the best version of yourself. And very often I find that people do not know a roadmap to become the best version of themselves. And this is why I love this program that you have designed, Men's Forum, because Men's Forum is going to give men a step-by-step approach of important things that they should be focusing on when it comes to personal development. All right. You need to invest in you. And Chris, one of the saddest things that we see is that many good men, they work hard and they work hard for the family. And very often in working working hard for the family, they tend to neglect self. And that could be a very worrying situation. And all of this, I know that your book is talking about, and the men's forum will really help men to really understand practical steps that they can take to become the best version of themselves, which is important.
Yeah, and it starts with that, right? And that's like literally, you know, I want people to fully understand that I started this becoming a better Chris in my 40s, right? And when I started that journey, you know, I didn't realize how much or how important it was for me to get myself in a certain position before I could do anything else, right? And then as it was taught to me and as I started going through all this personal development, I realized that even though I was trying to help my family and I was trying to be there for them and I was trying to be a good employee and those kind of things, I couldn't because I was holding me back, right? And it's all about that. And then when I realized, okay, I got to change Chris from the inside, then I had no clue what the steps were to do that, right? So it's about coming up with those daily action steps and just executing those. And then when you get a little better, you kind of tweak those action steps and then you complete those on a daily basis. And I wish that there was a book out there that I would have read when I was in my 20s or you know, had this forum because I struggled for so long. Just I knew something was wrong. You know, I knew that my relationships could be better. I knew that I could be a better person. I wanted to be a better father. I just had no clue how to do it. And that's the struggle that many men in this world are faced with is that, you know, we're scared to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then for the biggest part is that we think nobody cares, right? We're the ones that are supposed to care about everyone else, right?
Yeah.
My kids need this. My wife needs this. My boss needs this, right? I got to go home this weekend and fix the shingles on the roof. I got to do this. I got to do that, right? We are totally groomed throughout our lives to not care about ourselves, to care about everyone else.
Everyone else.
And the problem is we can't successfully care for anyone else if we don't care for ourselves first.
Exactly. Chris, I love that. And I want to come back to the men's forum. And I want to encourage the audience to go to the description and find this link, men's forum, press that link and subscribe, become part of the inner community. Right now it's free. It's not going to be free for much longer. So I want to encourage you to go to this link and get registered now. Why? Because when Chris is talking about men and personal development for men, what Chris is saying to you is that you need to have a sense of self. You need to have a sense of purpose and you need to have a sense of direction. Now, if you don't know this, it simply means that you could be the captain of your ship, but then you really don't know how to navigate that ship.
Yeah.
This is you're the captain of your life.
Yeah.
And you owe it to yourself to know how to navigate your life to success. All right. And that is what you will get when you become part of the community that Chris is talking about. The men's forum is going to set you up for success. All right. So do get registered.
I had it explained to me by my first mentor, and he said, "You know what your biggest problem is?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "You're flying an airplane, and you're not a pilot." And when he said that to me, I was
scary, Chris.
Yeah, right. But it's the truth. Most of us are guiding ourselves through life, and we've had no education or training on how to do it.
How to do it.
So
and
we're
the strange thing about that, the strange thing about that too.
We're flying by the seat of our pants. You know, it's literally we live our life by the seat of our pants, and then we wonder why we struggle so much. And it's not our fault that we struggle. It's that there was no material there to teach us a better way. That's why
until now.
That's why when you and I first got together and we're talking about this forum, this is my heart. This is my life, right? This is trying to show everyone that there is a better way, and this is exactly how to do it. You know, I want every man in this entire country to read this book and be involved with this forum for multiple reasons. But for one is so that they can become better, because like we talked about before, if they become better, then their families become better, their communities become better. The ripple effect is astronomical, but it all starts starts. It all starts with becoming a better man.
Exactly. Chris, the irony and the funniness of what you just said, and you being in the plane, you're flying the plane, but then you're not a pilot.
Yeah.
The sad thing about that, Chris, is that many leaders of the home who are supposed to be the pilots of that home,
Yeah.
they're not just piloting themselves.
Yeah.
They're piloting the family. They have passengers with them,
Yeah.
and they're destined to crash
Yeah.
because they do not have that blueprint. That blueprint that this book is going to be talking about, becoming a better man. They're going to find the blueprint in the men's forum, so they need to get registered for the men's forum, and they're going to find more of the blueprint in family forum.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, we talk a little bit about personal development. Can we talk a little bit now about how important it is for the male figure as a leader of the home, of the family, to have what we call a family development plan? Should that male figure in his role as a leader, should he have an overarching vision of what he wants for the family, why he wants it, and how to achieve this for the family? How important is this in your view?
It's very important. I mean, it's all right. So I look at it like this, right? If you're a leader at work, say you're a boss, right? And you don't know how to do your job, how can you lead your team to be successful, right? It's and like you said, we're the leader of the family. And if we don't know how to lead them, then guess what? Our family's not going to be very successful. And that's emotionally, that's, educationally, that's, financially. There are so many things involved. We talked about this before. The most complicated relationship you have in your entire life is your family relationship. And if we don't have a blueprint and we don't know how to guide our children into being successful members of society, then guess what? They grow up and they're not. They have to then try to figure it out on their own, and they struggle for years and years and years. And I have done tons of training on this and realized that it all starts with the self, right? The bankruptcy, the failed businesses, all that stuff starts with you. But what happens is that stuff creates trauma. And then, like we were talking about earlier, it goes into depth in this in the book, is that we pass that trauma on to our children and we don't even realize we're doing it. My dad passed his lifetime of trauma on to me. It's because it's all he knew, and he didn't even realize that he was passing it on to me. It just happens, right? And it just happens. It just happens because we don't know the way to stop it. In the book, in the forum, it will teach you the way to stop it. It will teach you the way to guide your children to dream and have dreams. And how to properly pursue those dreams, and how to set your children up financially. Like I said, the best thing that ever happened to me was I'm lucky. I had another child at 45, so I got a do-over with my son after I did a lot of this personal development. So I get a chance to make sure that he's the best person that he can be, because I know how to do that now, right?
Exactly.
And I know how to do things like I've done. I told you before. I have a Roth IRA set up in his name, and I pay him a little bit of money each month out of my business. And that way, when he goes on his own, he already has a foundation. My parents never did that for me. They didn't know to do that for me.
Chris, I'm going to share a story with you. I'm talking with a young man, and his father was absent from his life for a little bit, for quite a number of years. So they met up a few years later, and one of the first things that his dad asked him is, what work are you doing? Are you working? I'm going to come right back to that part of it shortly. But you and I understand that in today's world, a single source of income is totally inadequate for the family today. Fortunately for that young man, he was exposed very early to things like how to put monies to work for you, what is multiple streams of income, and what is generational wealth. So he was very much socialized into thinking about self-empowerment, self-employment, and
Yeah.
wealth creation. So coming back to the question his father asked, when his father asked that question, he said, Dad, I am my own boss. And that in of itself was a shock to his father from the perspective that his father believed that being your own boss is very difficult. And his father
Yeah.
tried to talk him
Yeah.
out of being his own boss until he explained to his dad that, hey, I have multiple streams of income. They have been taking care of him and his family for quite a number of years. And then that was a aha moment for the dad. But then he recognized something, that perhaps his father being absent from his life was a blessing, because had his father been in his life, his father would have sent him down the pathway of the 8 to 4, which might have kept him in poverty, in challenge. So I think, coming back to some of what we talked about early on, the presence of the father is important, the male figure is important, but I think what is even more important is having that male figure around, that father figure around, that is a global thinker, all right,
Yeah.
that is a social actor, that is a transformational leader. I mentioned global, leaders, social, actor, transformational leaders, because the way Becoming a Better Man is written, it is designed to help the male figure to understand how to be that global thinker, how to
Yeah.
be that social actor, and how to be that transformational leader. They have all of that in this book. When they come out to the men's forum, they will understand how to position themselves to be this type of leader as a man, this type of leader in the home. And when it comes to managing the family, they will have this entire blueprint for them. So I really love your ecosystem that you've actually built out and to help men and the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. The
Chris,
thing of this, right,
go
is
ahead.
that before you move on, it's this is so necessary.
Mhm.
There are so many men out there that are trying to be the leader of their family, and they have no clue how to do it, and I know that because I struggled for 2 decades of adulthood with the same thing, and I thought I was successful because I put a decent roof over my family's head, and
Yeah.
I was able to buy my wife a decent car, and we had food in the fridge and all those things. But once you learn this blueprint and these steps, you'll realize that that's not success. Most of us think that that's what success is. It's not. Success is having the knowledge and the education to be able to make sure that your children grow up to be great people. That's success.
Chris, can we talk a little bit about wealth creation planning? I do believe, do you think it is necessary for the male, the leader of the home, to have a wealth creation plan for the family? How important
Yeah.
is this from your perspective? You spoke early on about the Roth
Yeah.
RIA that you have developed for your son. Can we go into this a little more?
Yeah, I think, it's like I said, it's a matter of not knowing how instrumental it is, right? I didn't know that I could just, pay my son $50, $100 a month, and I could set him up in a position to where when he's an adult, he'll have a stable foundation. You go out to a restaurant, and as well as I do, especially in these days of inflation, it costs you $200-300 to take your family out to dinner. You can take a quarter of that once a month and invest in your child, and then they won't start out as an adult in poverty. And I know that a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, but there's got to be a way that you can carve out $50 a month to invest in your children. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The concept relating to wealth creation planning, Chris, is so important. And here is where I'm happy to join force with you to complement your platform in really helping men understand smarter ways to build wealth and helping the family to understand, better ways to build wealth. And I could recall a little while ago, I have these conversations every so often with families. The kids now are grown, and they are now considering, to send their kids off to college. But Chris, you and I know that, the global education system, it needs an upgrade, and we need to talk about that academic audit. We need to be certain that when we pay that, $150,000, $180,000, $200,000 for our kids to get their master's degree, one, they're going to get a job, and two, they're going to be able to pay a job that pays well enough to help them to pay off for that, qualification in a short period of time. We have heard story where families and people are they're into 10 years, 11 years, 15 years, and 20 years, and they're still trying to pay off for that student loan.
Yeah.
So the way we are encouraging people to think is to think better, to think smarter. And I'm just going to share with you some of the things that we would talk about from time to time. So we have, $50,000 to allocate to our children college fund. And what do we do with our $50,000? Do we allocate it for them to go on to college, or do we allocate it to an income producing asset? Now, by allocating that capital into an income producing asset, the right income producing asset, guess what happens, Chris? It brings in monthly income. And that monthly income is able to offset the cost of the asset, principal and interest, tax, and insurance. And it leave a profit. But guess what else, Chris? That income producing asset is an appreciating asset. So ever so often the asset appreciates, which gives you equity, and it allows you to take out the equity, where you can now create that snowball effect of putting monies to work for you. But at the end of the day, Chris, guess what happens? You have an asset that is paying you monthly. You have an asset that is appreciating regularly. And you have here income that is coming in that can pay for your college education, and at the end of the day, you're debt free. You don't have to struggle to pay for that college education. And at the end of paying for that college education, you're strapped into debt. One, you have an income producing asset that is paying for the college, and you have an asset that is going to pay you for the rest of your life. So these are some simple hacks that we will be talking about. And in the book, there is some aspect of that in the book to really help parents, to men and family, to understand smarter ways of doing things.
And a lot of people don't realize, excuse me, how vital that is. I lived it. My wife, she's a medical professional. She got way, I think at one point we were $200,000 in debt in student loan. And when we were younger, you can't pay them. So you keep putting them in forbearance. And so they just continue to pile up and pile up. And then when you finally get working, then you owe this big mound of money, and you just try to throw chunks at it, but most of what you're throwing at it is going to interest, right? So you're not even putting much on the principal. So it literally took 20 years to pay off her student loans.
That's a story.
And so what you're saying is so invaluable, right? It's like, if there's a way to prevent that, it's the reason that most college kids don't want to become doctors, because they got to go to school for 12 years and they got to pile up this massive amount of debt. And then when they finally get into residency, they're not really making any money, but they got to start paying all this debt off. And most doctors, they don't start really making a good living until they're in their 40s, because it takes them that long to pay everything off.
You're perfectly correct. And I want to bring the audience back to two platforms. Again, I want to encourage men to get registered for the Men's Forum, because these things that we're talking about here, we're just scratching the surface. Chris and I will go much deeper into these concepts. You will understand the step by step. You will understand the blueprint. So you as a male, you don't have to struggle with your sense of self. You don't have to struggle in relationships. You don't have to struggle when it comes to creating wealth. We have that blueprint for you. So do go to description, find the link, press that link, register for this program. We also have the Family Forum. And what I love about the Family Forum, Chris, is that, the male has a helpmate. They have a helpmate. The male, they have connection connection with other members of the family. And that could be used as an accelerator to build wealth. So these are important platforms and for the family. And again, I want to encourage you to go get registered family forum, go to description, press that link and get registered for this program. Chris will pour his heart into this program. I will come alongside Chris to ensure that you get the right information to move your life forward. Chris, the last question I want us to look at is generational wealth and continuity planning. Do you think that it is part of the male responsibility to plan for generational wealth? So when they create wealth, they're laying that foundation for the kids to know what to do. So they never lose wealth, but you know, they keep adding to that wealth, and there's a generational cycle there. How important is this in your view?
I think it's your legacy, right? Like I realized something when my father died, right? Goods and bads, a lot of faults, but he was a great man. And at his funeral, there were probably 200 people, and 100 of them I never met. And they took the time to tell me one little story, or where my dad loaned him some money or bailed him out of jail or whatever the case was, right? And that's what they remembered, is how kind and great of a man he was, right? So I know for me personally, when I'm not here anymore, I think about what my grandkids think of me, what their kids are going to think of me. And I want to be remembered as the guy that created a blueprint so that they can live a better life.
Wow. Love that, Chris. Love that. You know, and Chris, that's the way that I think that we owe it to ourselves to think like. And I think we owe it to our spouse, we owe it to our children to think this way. You know, it really hurts my heart sometimes when you hear some leaders of the home, men saying things like, you know, when I go to the maker, I will take nothing. So why store up, you know, a lot of things here on earth? And I think that's a very poor way of thinking. You know, I think as a leader with your family here on earth, you want to know that you lay that foundation where they are never financially stressed, because you know, Chris, you know, the lack of capital affects marriage. It affects relationships. It affects what a father can do for his kids. It affects all of these things. It creates trauma for the male in all of these different ways. What I really love about what you're doing, your platform, is that it is really designed to find the solution and to mentor and coach and support men and through those solutions. So now they can master those techniques in a way that they can see tangible change and transformation in their lives. So in conclusion, I want to say to the public, I have been working with Chris for a little while now, and I know that Chris, he comes from the heart, and his heart is with you. He wants to help men. He wants to help the family. And this book that he has written, Becoming a Better Man, is going to be transformational for men, not only in America, but for men across the world. So again, I want to encourage you to go to description, press the link, and get registered for these programs that Chris and I are offering. For now, these programs are free, but I assure you it's going to transform your life when you come into the community and you start to get the step-by-step, you know, practical things that you can do to position yourself to be a better person, a better leader, a better spouse, a better father. Get registered. Chris, I want to leave the last words to you. Any last words you want to share on some of the things that we have discussed here today?
Yeah. First off, you know, like we stated in the beginning, it all starts with you, right? I'm a big believer in everything that happened to me in my life was my fault. You have to first be able to be accountable and have some acceptance. Right. And once you can do that, then you can start finding that greater path to become somebody different. And then once you follow this blueprint and you become that different person, then it bleeds into how can I teach my family how to be better, and how can I guide them how to be better. And that's not, you know, I know we talked about money today, but it's not about just leaving them money. Like, I've been paying life insurance my entire adult life, right? That will give them money. It's about teaching them what to do with that money, right? And how how many times have you seen a kid get an inheritance and blow it and he's broke by the time he's 25 and then he's out there struggling? Just because you got a $500,000 life insurance policy does not mean your kids are going to be okay. It's about learning this blueprint and then teaching it to them so that they can in turn teach it to their children, so that at some point we don't have all these people that are 19 years old and struggling and don't have a clue on how to not struggle. That's my goal in all of this. I literally wish that one day this family forum would be part of educational literature, right? Obviously that'll probably never happen, but it should. Like, these are real life situations. These are real life techniques that kids need to know. Everyone needs to know, because we all struggle without these things. And I struggled with them until I was 42 years old. And then I started to carve all these things out on my own. And I fell flat on my face and I picked myself up, and I fell flat on my face and I picked myself up. If you'll just join this forum, if you'll just read the book, you can literally eliminate all that falling flat on your face, because we all know how painful that is.
Thanks for sharing, Chris. And there you had it. You're getting some aspect of Chris and some aspect of the projects that we're working on. Keep following this podcast. I want you to like, I want you to subscribe, I want you to comment on this podcast. I want you to get registered, become part of this community. All right, you have the book, Becoming a Better Man. You have the Men's Forum, and you have the Family Forum. And all of these programs are designed, as Chris would have said, to touch and transform your life and position you for greatness. Mm-hmm. So with that, I want to thank you, Chris, for being here today. And until we meet again next week.
All right, brother. Have a great afternoon.
Awesome.
Family Forum, for a new generation of people. Learn smart ways to build individual and generational wealth. Live and lead more purpose-driven lives. Build and leverage community leadership. Build strong personal and corporate brands. Take personal and collective ownership of family life. Family Forum, for a new generation of families.